Thank you, Chair. My questions will be directed to Mr. Di Martino. But before I start, I do want to say we were supposed to have Maria Oropesa joining us today, and I was deeply disappointed when I heard that she wouldn't be able to. As I understand, her headset, she acquired the headset that she was supposed to have, but with the wrong version. And the only difference between one version and the other is comfort for the user. And it is very disappointing because this is somebody who is a political prisoner who was released recently. She still cannot leave the country. She had to travel to another city, as you can imagine, in Venezuela to obtain this. And it's expensive on the ground. And of course, we are doing a study about Venezuela, and we don't have a Venezuelan on the ground. It is very, very disappointing. She's the only Venezuelan who actually has documented the actions of the regime, and in fact, she had live streamed the very moment when she was taken by the regime. So I think I wish we could have done better than that. But
we did, and I don't want to take from your time, but I'm happy to either respond or have the clerk really go into details about.
We can talk about it, but it's just to have her silence for a version is.
No,
absolutely. As you can understand,
it wasn't just about the comfort level of the headset for the user. It was actually the ability of the headset to work with
but
both.
The sound, anyways, I don't want to get into the discussion, but I know that, as I understand, the sound check went through, but we can discuss details just to avoid it in the future. So, Mr. Di Martino, if I may, some Canadians, of course, when they woke up to the news of the removal of Nicolas Maduro, were conflicted about the method that was used for his removal. He was taken into U.S. custody under serious criminal charges, including drug trafficking and direct involvement with terrorist organizations. Could you please give us your perspective on that, on the removal, and perhaps you can touch on the specific criminal charges for which Nicolas Maduro is currently being held in the United States?
Yeah, the truth is that anything that has happened to Maduro is too little for what he truly deserves. So it's amazing that he was taken. It was done in a really great operation. This was really just law enforcement. He was lawfully indicted, unlike Maria Oropesa, as you mentioned, who was kidnapped from her home at night. Maduro got a little bit of his own medicine, except it was all lawful and really positive in the ground, right? Most of the people who died defending him were Cuban agents. I think we don't talk enough about the role that the Cuban regime has in supporting the repression in Venezuela, in addition to repressing its own people.
And of course, we do hear some even members of parliament saying, you know, it is not for anyone else but the Venezuelan people to change the government, and they should do it from with the Venezuelans that are on the ground, even not even the expats having a role to play in that transition. There are some complications, of course, with that, given the current or the Maduro regime. Could you please share your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, number one, we're talking about an armed regime and an unarmed civilian population. The truth is, Venezuela was never going to change without external help. By the way, most countries tend not to change without external help. The Soviet Union didn't fall on its own. It fell thanks to international pressure too. Then, you know, and then they just got lucky too, in that they got Gorbachev, somebody who wanted to reform, but it took, 70, 80 years for that to happen. That is the lifetime of many people. It's hundreds of thousands of deaths. It's millions of refugees. It's something that is affecting the world. You mentioned the charges. Maduro himself was a drug trafficker. His nephews, or really the biological nephews of his wife, Celia, were convicted in the United States of them being drug traffickers, bringing cocaine to the United States. That cocaine also ends up in Canada. It kills Canadian citizens. That is a national security issue. And he's not being even indicted of the crimes he committed against Venezuelans in Venezuela, which have been the worst of the crimes.
And experts have suggested that Venezuela served as a platform for Iranian influence in the Western Hemisphere and may have hosted networks linked to the IRGC and Hezbollah. What type of activities were these groups believed to conduct inside Venezuela?
Well, one thing is modern terrorist groups finance themselves through drug trafficking. The Taliban financed themselves through opium, right? So did the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad. And so do the Venezuelans, so does FARC, so does ELN. And so that is something to keep in mind. The IRGC is one of those groups. The Iranians not only function in Venezuela, but we're seeing Islamic Shia schools open in Margarita and in other parts of Venezuela. And look, I have nothing against people who are believers of Islam, but these are people immigrating to Venezuela from Iran. Who is trying to immigrate? Which kind of foreigner wants to immigrate to Venezuela in its current state? Only somebody sponsored by a foreign regime.
Thank you very much.